Imagine, if you will, a story that kicks off with someone putting their very last $28,000, pretty much everything they had, on the line,
Mm,
investing it in an idea that almost everyone around them just dismissed, said it was impossible.
right.
Today, that same individual commands, well, a staggering $424.7 billion fortune. I mean, a wealth so immense, it genuinely defies easy explanation. It just breaks all the conventional models.
It really does.
And here's what's truly remarkable, I think. Despite reaching such, stratospheric levels of financial success, the sources we've looked at confirm he still operates with this almost obsessive dedication, refusing to take a single day off.
What's truly fascinating here isn't merely the colossal number, though that is mind-boggling. It's the deeply unconventional mindset, the internal logic that underpins it all.
Yeah.
Most people, when faced with the prospect of immense wealth, they naturally gravitate towards comfort, towards security, maybe even thinking about early retirement.
Sure, that's the dream for many.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This individual, however, seems to have actively sought out chaos, challenge, and this unrelenting pursuit of a mission that, frankly, at its inception, truly stood alone. It was widely ridiculed. His path has been anything but conventional.
Welcome to the deep dive. Today's mission isn't simply about, chronicling the accumulation of billions, though we'll touch on that. It's really about dissecting the profoundly unique approach to life, career, and wealth that made it all possible for Elon Musk.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to systematically pull apart the extensive sources you've shared with us. I mean, ranging from detailed biographical insights, in-depth company analyses, right through to his own public statements.
Yeah, a lot of material there.
Definitely. To meticulously understand the radical philosophy and strategic choices that really underpin his unprecedented journey.
Our deep dive today will relentlessly explore why his chosen path isn't just difficult. At times, it's been filled with moments so brutal, so demanding, that the vast majority of individuals, no matter how ambitious they were, would have undoubtedly quit.
Absolutely.
Yet he didn't. Our overarching goal is to meticulously uncover the why behind the what's, helping you understand the strategic decisions, the unyielding commitment, and, frankly, the almost superhuman high-performance behaviors that transform these seemingly impossible visions into very tangible realities.
So what does this all mean for you, our listener, tuning in? We're not just presenting a list of facts here.
Right.
We'll be looking for those surprising nuggets of knowledge, those aha moments that really resonate, that might challenge your own assumptions about success, about risk, about dedication, things that you can ultimately take away and reflect upon regardless of your own pursuits or aspirations. This is really about unlocking a unique way of thinking that has, rewritten the rules in so many ways. Here's where this story truly deviates from, the well-trodden path of wealth accumulation. When most people envision achieving significant wealth, their minds instinctively conjure images of comfort, right?
Yeah, the standard stuff.
A sprawling estate, maybe a leisurely early retirement, perhaps even a luxury yacht sailing off into the sunset. For them, money is often seen as the ultimate goal, the definitive finish line.
The end game.
Exactly. But for Elon Musk, the sources consistently describe money as something fundamentally different. It's mere fuel for grand ideas, a resource to be deployed with almost surgical precision, never a personal trophy to be displayed or, a comfortable cushion to lounge on.
That's such a key distinction.
It really is. This isn't just semantics. It's a crucial foundational distinction that has fundamentally shaped every major decision he's made since the very beginning of his career. It sets him so far apart from traditional financial thinking.
That's a critical observation. And it raises an important question, doesn't it? How fundamentally different is this approach from the conventional wisdom around, say, financial independence or wealth management?
Right.
The sources highlight that this mindset isn't some philosophical stance he adopted after achieving success. It seems to have been intrinsically hardwired into his strategic DNA from day one.
It seems that way.
He doesn't view capital as a finite prize to be hoarded, but rather as a dynamic tool, a means to an end. And that end is consistently some grand, often seemingly impossible vision for humanity's future.
Yeah, these huge goals.
It's a form of active, almost aggressive resource reallocation away from personal gain and towards what he perceives as grand existential imperatives. He treats billions not as a score to be tallied, but as a lever to apply maximum force against what he calls humanity's greatest risks or biggest opportunities.
So it requires a completely different kind of calculation.
Absolutely. An internal calculus that is fundamentally non-financial.
Let's dig into some truly remarkable examples that vividly illustrate this unique approach to capital. Consider the sale of Zip2 back in 1999.
Okay.
His company, providing online city guides, was acquired for roughly $307 million. From that substantial sale, Musk's personal earnings amounted to $22 million.
Which for someone in their late 20s back then was a fortune.
A life-altering sum, right. Conventional wisdom would dictate buying a luxurious mansion, maybe a private jet, certainly setting yourself up for life. Financial security.
You'd think so.
But what did Musk do? He immediately, and it seems like without hesitation, poured $12 million, which was over half of his newly acquired fortune, into X.com, an online banking startup. This venture, as many know, eventually evolved into PayPal.
Right.
That's an all-in gamble right at the very start of his professional career. Most people would save, invest cautiously, maybe diversify.
Aggressively diversify.
He, by stark contrast, bet incredibly big on a concept that was still very new, very far from guaranteed. It was a clear signal of his priorities right from the outset.
And that audacious, almost defiant move really set the foundational pattern for everything that followed. When eBay subsequently acquired PayPal in 2002 for a staggering $1.5 billion.
Huge number.
Huge. Musk once again walked away with a significant sum, approximately $180 million. Again, for the vast majority of individuals, this would have been it. The ultimate payday.
The I've made it moment.
Exactly. The culmination of years of hard work, a definitive chance to truly cash out, enjoy the fruits of their labor, ensure generational wealth. But instead of securing his financial future in that traditional sense, he did the exact opposite, made a choice that just bewildered so many people.
What did he do?
Famously split every single cent, and the sources are clear, every single cent of that $180 million into 3 incredibly risky ventures. Ventures that, as history would show, very nearly led to his personal bankruptcy and the collapse of everything he was trying to build.
Wow. Which ones?
He allocated $100 million into SpaceX, $70 million into Tesla, and a further $10 million into Solar City.
So not exactly playing it safe.
Not at all. We connect this to the broader picture of traditional finance. These were emphatically not diversified investments for security or cautious growth. These were incredibly concentrated, high-stakes bets on entirely new, largely unproven industries.
Like space travel and electric cars back then.
Precisely. He would later admit during the dire times of 2008 when these companies were teetering on the brink, I had to borrow money for rent.
He actually said that.
He did. This was not someone playing it safe. This was someone repeatedly pushing all their chips into the absolute center of the table, not for personal gain, but purely for the vision.
And that period around the 2008 financial crisis was, by all accounts, just brutal.
Unbelievably so.
All 3 companies, SpaceX, Tesla, Solar City, were just moments from going under. The global financial system was in free fall, and amidst that chaos, he was personally risking everything. The sources vividly describe his net worth as having plummeted to nearly zero in 2008. It was a real crucible moment where most entrepreneurs would have been forced to just declare defeat.
No question.
Yet, if we fast forward to May 2025, Forbes confirms his net worth hasn't just recovered. It's climbed to an astonishing over $424.7 billion. It represents one of the fastest, largest accumulations of wealth in human history.
It's staggering.
But the sources consistently emphasize that simply looking at the raw numbers fails to capture the profound mindset that made it possible. It's fundamentally about how he treats capital. He doesn't accumulate it to preserve it. He accumulates it to deploy it, to relentlessly push it towards what he believes are humanity's most pressing existential challenges and opportunities.
Which brings us to what is perhaps his most radical and counterintuitive idea, that money in itself is meaningless unless it is aggressively leveraged to create something bold, something seemingly impossible, something that, in his own words, forces the world forward.
That's a powerful quote.
It is. And this philosophy runs entirely counter to the conventional wisdom of financial independence, which so often centers on building a secure nest egg and ensuring personal comfort. Musk reached the pinnacle of wealth not by hoarding, not by optimizing for personal gain or traditional market returns, but by risking more than anyone else was willing to lose.
Risking more than anyone else.
Yeah. He doesn't merely invest in companies, he commits to revolutions. From the audacious goal of making humanity a multiplanetary species with SpaceX to building human-AI symbiosis with Neuralink, his ventures are colossal, decades-long bets on fundamentally reshaping humanity's future.
So the fortune is almost a side effect.
In a way, yes. The incredible fortune he possesses isn't just a financial outcome. It's a living, breathing embodiment of his philosophy. It quietly asks you, the listener, what if true wealth isn't measured by what you keep, but by what you're brave enough to risk for something far bigger than yourself? What kind of world would you try to build if resources were merely tools?
It's a deep question. So, if accumulating personal wealth wasn't the primary game, then what was the driving objective? His career strategy seems almost absurd, maybe even irrational, to a traditional business person looking through the lens of typical corporate goals.
It really does.
After the PayPal acquisition, he could have effortlessly retired, embraced a life of unparalleled luxury and leisure, never worked another day.
Absolutely, he had the money.
But that was clearly not the objective for him. Instead, he made a decision he later candidly referred to as probably the dumbest financial decision of his life.
Which was?
Starting a private space company in 2002, SpaceX.
Right, which seemed insane at the time.
Totally. This wasn't a sudden whim. It was born from this deep-seated, almost existential belief that for humanity to ensure its long-term survival, it needed to become a multiplanetary species.
A belief not widely shared back then.
Not at all. A vision that was, at the time, widely ridiculed by aerospace veterans, mainstream media, even many of his closest associates. This wasn't a market-driven decision responding to existing demand. It was profoundly mission-driven. And that fundamental distinction really underscores his unique strategy. He builds conviction first, he proactively creates entirely new markets, and he concentrates his vision rather than just following existing market demand or, diversifying risk to play it safe.
Exactly. When SpaceX was born in 2002, the established aerospace industry, seasoned NASA veterans, even many within his own fledgling team, initially dismissed him as a visionary fool. They scoffed. They openly laughed him out of meetings, convinced he didn't understand the complexities or the prohibitive costs of space travel. But he wasn't optimizing for profit margins in the short term, or even for conventional market share. He was optimizing for profound generational impact.
A different game entirely.
Completely. He wasn't aiming to grab a small piece of an existing pie. He was aiming to bake an entirely new one that involved not just launching satellites, but eventually enabling the colonization of Mars. This level of singular, unwavering focus, sustained despite widespread skepticism and immense financial strain, it's a defining hallmark of his approach. It's a conviction-led strategy, not a market-led one.
And then, of course, there's Tesla. In 2004, he invested $6.5 million into this tiny electric car startup, a move that back then was seen as incredibly niche, unexciting, largely impractical by the dominant auto industry.
Yeah, EVs were basically golf carts in most people's minds.
Right. For years, Tesla was bleeding cash at an alarming rate. They faced relentless lawsuits, overwhelmingly hostile press coverage, and were constantly on the brink of financial collapse, seemingly just days or weeks from bankruptcy.
It looked really bleak for a long time.
But Musk didn't quit. The sources describe him as having doubled down again and again, not just financially, but personally, during what he famously termed production hell for the Model 3.
Oh, yeah, that period was intense.
He literally slept on the factory floor, showered at the gym, completely skipped holidays for months on end, micromanaging production lines with an intensity that astonished people.
Just lived there, basically.
Pretty much. He made daring, unconventional decisions like opting for online-only sales, completely bypassing the traditional dealership model, which was considered heresy in the auto world. Most rational business leaders would have thrown in the towel, declared it a failed experiment, cut their losses, but he just kept pushing, enduring, ultimately not just surviving, but redefining the entire global auto industry, forcing legacy automakers to accelerate their own EV strategies.
And that same pattern of audacious, market-creating ambition just kept repeating itself across various, seemingly disparate sectors. After Tesla gained some traction, he also invested heavily in SolarCity, which aimed to make solar energy more accessible.
Right, later folded into Tesla.
Exactly, into Tesla's broader energy division. He even started the Boring Company out of what began as sheer personal frustration with LA traffic.
I remember that. Just decided to dig tunnels.
Pretty much. Envisioning and then actively building underground transportation networks. Then came Neuralink, with its profoundly ambitious and, let's face it, controversial goal of achieving brain-machine symbiosis.
Yeah, that's still mind-bending stuff.
To potentially address neurological disorders, enhance human cognition. And most recently, in 2023, he launched xAI, a direct, aggressive challenge to established generative AI giants like OpenAI, and Google.
With the goal of truthful AI.
That's the stated aim, yeah. Aligned with human values. A mission just fraught with philosophical and technical complexity. The latest sources indicate that as of mid-2025, XAI is reportedly valued around $50 billion and is actively negotiating deep integration with Tesla's existing vast AI infrastructure.
So it all connects.
It becomes abundantly clear that these are not disconnected, opportunistic ventures. They form a complex, interconnected ecosystem designed to support a larger, singular vision for humanity's future.
What's truly fascinating here is how each company isn't just a standalone business with its own P&L, but rather a vital piece of a much larger, interconnected vision, almost like components of a grand machine.
Exactly.
There's a clear, discernible strategic pattern at play. He doesn't follow market demand. He actively creates entirely new markets, often where none existed or where others only saw insurmountable obstacles.
He makes the market.
Right. He doesn't diversify his portfolio to reduce risk, like a conventional investor would. Instead, he concentrates his efforts with laser-like focus to amplify his singular vision, believing that intense focus on a few key areas will yield disproportionate returns. Every significant move he makes isn't merely a business decision. It's a profound belief statement anchored in what he calls first principles thinking. He ruthlessly breaks problems down to their raw, fundamental truths, the non-negotiables, rather than relying on analogies or existing precedents.
Yes, and this fundamentally redefines what asset building means for him, totally transcending traditional financial metrics. SpaceX, for example, isn't just a rocket manufacturing company anymore.
It's much more now.
It's a global satellite internet network through Starlink, offering internet access to remote areas, conflict zones. It's a potential Mars logistics pipeline for future colonization efforts, and increasingly, a critical military technology partner for governments worldwide.
And Tesla.
Similarly, Tesla isn't merely a car manufacturer. It's rapidly evolving into a vast battery empire, a cutting-edge AI research laboratory, and arguably a data monopoly on wheels through its vast network of vehicles constantly collecting real-time road data.
That data must be incredibly valuable.
Immensely. His strategic approach explicitly rejects safety and instead wholeheartedly embraces calculated chaos. It vividly illustrates that achieving long-term domination in new revolutionary industries often requires significant, sustained short-term discomfort and a willingness to operate outside conventional norms.
And the biggest loss isn't money.
Right. To Musk, the ultimate unforgivable loss isn't losing money, it's losing irreplaceable time. Time that could be spent advancing his mission. Every risk he undertakes is meticulously measured not by potential financial setback, but by the potential for mission failure, by whether it accelerates or hinders his grand vision.
That's a profoundly challenging thought for anyone accustomed to traditional metrics of success and failure. What does this provoke in you? This idea that every risk, every gamble, every resource deployed is measured primarily by its impact on a mission's progress, not by financial profit or loss. It truly reframes the entire concept of investing.
It forces a fundamental rethink, doesn't it?
Having explored his radical financial philosophy and his audacious strategic plays, let's turn our attention now to the daily architecture of his life.
Yeah.
Because to truly understand Musk's unprecedented success, we have to look beyond the companies and the billions. We need to dive deep into his calendar, his habits.
The human engine behind it all.
Exactly. The sources paint a stark picture of a life lived consistently on the very edge of burnout. This isn't just about working hard. It's about embracing an extreme, intense lifestyle that relentlessly prioritizes work and the overarching mission over personal comfort, personal well-being, or even social norms, consistently pushing the absolute boundaries of what most people would consider human capacity.
Indeed. For the vast majority of his adult life, Musk has consistently averaged an astonishing 80 to 100 hours of work per week.
Every week.
Pretty much. It's not just a lot of hours. It's an all-consuming commitment that leaves virtually no room for anything else. He masterfully splits his time, often working concurrently across multiple demanding companies, SpaceX, Tesla, Neuralink, XAI.
How does he even manage that context switching?
It's incredible. It requires him to often work late into the night, frequently taking red-eye flights between meetings and factories, and famously sleeping just 6 hours a night. And sometimes, by his own admission, even less than that.
Oh.
During Tesla's infamous production hell in 2018, when the company was struggling to ramp up Model 3 production, he quite literally slept on the factory floor.
I remember reading about that.
Eschewed his home for a sleeping bag, showered at the gym, skipped holidays for months on end. He famously articulated his rationale, stating, "I don't have time to go home and shower. I'd rather be solving problems.
Priorities, I guess.
Absolutely. This isn't mere narrative. It is his stark, brutal reality.
Yeah.
A visceral testament to a ruthless prioritization of the mission above all else, even basic personal comfort.
It sounds utterly exhausting just contemplating that level of intensity. His approach to time management is equally extreme and, well, unapologetic.
Yeah, the 5-minute blocks.
Exactly. He meticulously breaks his day into 5-minute blocks, and he ruthlessly eliminates anything he perceives as a distraction or non-value-adding activity. Meetings that don't add immediate, tangible value.
Gone.
Instantly canceled, often mid-meeting apparently. Emails longer than a single concise sentence.
Deleted.
Reportedly deleted without a second thought. His personal rule, direct from his own statements, is crystal clear and uncompromising. If you're not adding value, you shouldn't be in the room.
That's pretty blunt.
It is. This isn't about being polite, accommodating, or building consensus. It's about maximizing every single moment, every unit of mental energy to propel his companies forward. His entire life is a meticulously controlled environment of deep, uninterrupted focus, radical prioritization, and what one might accurately call an almost painful disregard for personal comfort or traditional leisure.
And this almost inhuman intensity extends beyond his own work habits to even his profoundly unconventional approach to his children's education. Dissatisfied with traditional schooling models, which he viewed as stifling creativity and true problem solving.
He started his own school, right? Ad Astra.
Exactly. Ad Astra, which later evolved into Astronova. This institution was specifically designed not for rote memorization or standardized testing, but for fostering critical thinking, ethical reasoning, and hands-on collaborative problem solving.
So what did they actually teach?
The sources emphasize that there were no grades, no rigid schedules, and notably, no traditional subjects like music or sports in the curriculum. The focus was squarely on logic, innovation, applied science, and moral reasoning, presented through challenges and collaborative projects rather than lectures.
Interesting.
His message here, again, was crystal clear. The complex, uncertain world his children would inherit required an entirely different type of mind. One that could think from first principles, innovate, and adapt, rather than simply regurgitate information.
Even his communication habits are unique and often, let's be honest, quite controversial, regularly stirring up immense debate.
Oh, definitely. His use of X, Twitter.
Yeah. While most corporate CEOs carefully curate their public image and communication on social media, Musk famously uses platforms like X as what the sources describe as a direct weapon.
A weapon. That's strong phrasing.
It is. He tweets raw, unfiltered technical updates, expresses provocative political views, shares obscure memes, and announces major product launches and company milestones, all often in the same breath. Little distinction between formal announcements and casual commentary.
Which causes chaos sometimes.
Undeniably. The result is often polarizing, generating significant backlash and criticism from various quarters, but it is also incredibly effective in terms of reach and direct impact.
True. He bypasses the media.
Completely. He's built an unprecedented direct relationship with over 180 million followers, effectively bypassing traditional media outlets and directly controlling his own narrative, for better or worse. It's a bold, unorthodox way to communicate, but it aligns perfectly with his overall strategy of direct action, radical transparency, and circumventing traditional gatekeepers.
Yet if we connect all this almost relentless intensity to the bigger picture, beneath the veneer of the seemingly superhuman innovator, well, there's a fragile human system.
That's important to remember.
Definitely. The sources reveal rare, candid admissions from Musk himself of intense periods of profound depression, debilitating insomnia, and crushing burnout. He has publicly acknowledged, for instance, on X, the reality is great highs, terrible lows, and unrelenting stress.
He's been quite open about that sometimes.
He has. He has even been observed crying in public during moments of immense corporate pressure, has talked openly about the profound loneliness that often accompanies leadership at such an extreme level, and has confessed to frequently feeling like he's eating glass and staring into the abyss.
Wow, eating glass and staring into the abyss.
Yeah. This is a crucial counterpoint to the image of the unfeeling-driven machine. It starkly highlights the immense personal and psychological cost of sustaining such an extreme, mission-driven lifestyle over decades.
It presents a powerful, almost unsettling paradox, then. He keeps going not because any of this is easy or comfortable, but because he profoundly believes the mission demands it, that the stakes are simply too high to falter. His habits are undeniably designed for maximum impact, for accelerating progress towards his vision, not for personal balance or comfort. He isn't living for today or even for the next fiscal quarter. He seems to live for the possibility of 50 years from now, for the long-term survival and flourishing of humanity.
A very long view.
Extremely long. In a culture that increasingly glorifies rest, self-care, and an ideal work-life balance, Musk's lifestyle feels almost inhuman, an outlier to the extreme. But it poses a dangerous, yet necessary question for all of us, doesn't it?
What's that?
How much are you truly willing to give, to sacrifice, to endure for what you genuinely believe in? It forces you to deeply consider the uncomfortable trade-offs involved in pursuing truly audacious, world-changing goals.
Yeah, it definitely challenges that comfort zone.
So after dissecting his financial philosophy and his relentless lifestyle, what does this all mean for his actual decision-making process? How does he consistently make these seemingly wild, counterintuitive choices that just defy conventional business wisdom?
Right, the how.
The truth is, he doesn't just do things differently. He fundamentally thinks differently. His entire decision-making framework is rooted in what he calls first principles thinking.
Okay, let's unpack that. What does it really mean?
At its core, it means breaking problems down to their absolute fundamental truths, to the most basic, undeniable components rather than relying on analogies, historical precedents, or what has simply worked before.
This raises an important question. Why does he call it first principles thinking? And how does it actually work in practice? It's a philosophy directly rooted in physics, isn't it?
That's the origin, yeah.
Where the aim is to build understanding from the ground up, effectively rewriting entire industries by discarding decades, even centuries, of accumulated assumptions.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Imagine you want to build a flying machine. Most people, using reasoning by analogy, would study birds, try to replicate their feathers, their wing movements, their flight patterns. That's an analogy.
That makes sense.
First principles thinking, by contrast, would break down the problem to its fundamental physical laws. What are the core principles of lift, drag, thrust, mass? What are the absolute minimum requirements to overcome gravity? By understanding these fundamental truths, you don't just build a better bird, you invent an airplane or a rocket.
Ah, okay, I see the difference.
Musk applies that same rigorous scientific approach to business and engineering, constantly asking, what are the irrefutable atomic-level truths of this industry, this product, or this problem? This allows him to see solutions that are often invisible to those trapped by conventional wisdom.
You see this brilliantly in how he completely revolutionized rocket manufacturing. When he was told that rockets inherently cost hundreds of millions of dollars, a figure accepted as just immutable by the entire aerospace industry.
Just the cost of doing business in space.
Right. Musk didn't just accept that as a given. Instead, applying first principles, he questioned every single assumption. The cost of materials, the labor involved, the fuel, the manufacturing processes, the very supply chain. He meticulously dissected every component.
And what did he find?
What he discovered was astounding. The raw materials for a rocket actually made up only a surprisingly small fraction of the overall cost. The vast majority was tied up in legacy processes, inefficient suppliers, bloated bureaucracies.
Interesting. So the materials weren't the main driver.
Not at all. Armed with this fundamental insight, this atomic truth, he bypassed the entire established paradigm. He built SpaceX to manufacture rockets almost entirely from scratch, completely in-house, designing and producing everything from the engines to the fuselage.
Total vertical integration.
Exactly. This radical vertical integration, coupled with an obsessive focus on reusability and efficiency, ultimately allowed SpaceX to dramatically reduce launch prices by over 90% compared to what NASA or traditional aerospace companies were paying.
A 90% reduction is game-changing.
Completely. Each move wasn't based on what existed or what was considered feasible, but on pure, unconstrained possibility. It's like he's constantly asking, what if we could start from absolute zero with no preconceived notions?
And this relentless first principles thinking extends to every single one of his ventures, making them profoundly disruptive. When the established Detroit automakers scoffed at the viability of electric cars, dismissing them as glorified golf carts.
Which they did for a long time.
Absolutely. Musk didn't try to make a better Prius, a slightly more efficient, incremental version of what already existed. Instead, by focusing on the fundamental advantages of electric motors and battery technology, he built the original Tesla Roadster.
The one that was super fast.
Yeah, a high-performance vehicle that could famously outrun Ferraris, showcasing that electric vehicles could be superior in performance, desirability, and environmental impact.
Changing the whole perception.
Totally. When governments and utilities seemed hesitant on the transition to renewable energy, he didn't wait. He merged Tesla and Solar City to create vertically integrated solar battery systems, envisioning a complete, interconnected energy solution for homes and businesses.
Taking control again.
And when he saw the crippling, soul-destroying traffic in Los Angeles, he didn't just complain like everyone else. He envisioned and created an entirely new underground transportation network, the Boring Company, to literally bore through the problem.
Yeah.
Each of these decisions wasn't incremental, it was revolutionary, stemming from a foundational reevaluation of the problem and a refusal to be constrained by existing limitations.
This unorthodox thinking also profoundly defines his approach to hiring and team building, doesn't it?
Absolutely.
Musk famously doesn't place much value on traditional academic degrees or prestigious alma maters. He famously said he looks for evidence of exceptional ability, not diplomas.
Right, demonstrable skills over credentials.
The sources reveal fascinating anecdotes. He reportedly hired some of Tesla's top engineers straight out of niche Reddit forums or from Twitter threads, valuing raw problem-solving capability over conventional credentials.
Really? Reddit?
Apparently so. For Neuralink, a company at the bleeding edge of brain-computer interfaces, he even brought on a neurosurgeon with no prior experience in the tech industry simply because that individual possessed a unique understanding of the biological side of the problem.
That makes sense, actually. Domain expertise.
Exactly. What matters to him is the ability to apply first principles to solve incredibly hard problems, to demonstrate actual, tangible capability. Not whether someone fits a resume template or has a prestigious background. It's all about raw talent, unconventional problem solving, and a shared commitment to the mission.
His personal decisions, too, are often just as unorthodox and reflect this same uncompromising approach. Musk doesn't take vacations, rarely attends elite industry conferences, and openly admits to avoiding small talk, viewing it as a waste of precious time.
No time for schmoozing.
Apparently not. His personal lifestyle is consistently described as brutally minimalistic, a stark contrast to his immense wealth. He's famously sold off nearly all his extensive real estate portfolio, reportedly lives in a tiny $50,000 modular house near the SpaceX facility in Texas.
A $50,000 house. Seriously.
That's what the reports say. And he's often seen wearing the same simple outfits. For Musk, this extreme simplicity isn't an aesthetic preference or a display of humility. It's a deeply tactical choice.
Tactical simplicity.
Yeah. Every ounce of energy, every moment of time, every mental bandwidth not directly spent on advancing his mission is, in his view, considered a wasted resource. This absolute dedication profoundly reinforces his singular focus and unwavering commitment.
But this radical philosophy and relentless drive, well, they come with a significant price, and it certainly isn't without its detractors.
Oh, definitely not. He's highly controversial.
Musk is notoriously demanding, often clashing openly and intensely with regulators, with co-founders who don't align with his pace, even with long-term investors who prioritize short-term returns.
Yeah, the list is long.
He's been known to abruptly oust CEOs, summarily dissolve entire departments, and make sudden, sweeping changes that have shocked even his closest teams in the wider industry. Critics often call his approach reckless, chaotic, autocratic, even ruthless.
Strong words, but often used.
Musk, however, calls it necessary, viewing these disruptions as an unavoidable part of breaking new ground and challenging entrenched systems. He once famously said, "You should take the approach that you're wrong. Your goal is to be less wrong."
That's an interesting quote. It implies constant searching.
It does. It's an admission of fallibility, perhaps, but also a call to constant, rigorous self-correction and iteration.
What's truly fascinating here is how that quote encapsulates his entire approach. Certainty is dangerous. Curiosity is survival. In an age where most leaders strive for consensus and conformity, his almost defiant refusal to conform, his willingness to be universally misunderstood, makes him a truly singular and polarizing force.
He definitely stands out.
He doesn't just follow trends or adapt to market shifts. He proactively redefines them, often pulling the entire market in his wake. His decisions, while frequently uncomfortable for those around him, might appear chaotic from the outside, but they are deeply intentional and rigorously rooted in this first principles approach.
So it's calculated chaos, in a way.
You could say that. He builds not based on how the world is or what conventional wisdom suggests, but how it could be. If someone dared to start from scratch and redefine the fundamental rules of engagement.
So after seeing how he thinks and operates internally, what does this all mean for how he operates on the global stage? By 2025, he's not merely the richest person on the planet. He has cemented his position as arguably one of the most influential private individuals in modern history.
Unquestionably influential.
And this immense influence isn't just a passive byproduct of his wealth, it's something he has strategically and quite deliberately engineered over decades. He hasn't gained power through traditional means like extensive lobbying of Congress or tirelessly courting elite media outlets, as legacy corporations typically do.
No, he plays a different game.
He's forged his own path.
That's absolutely right. Instead, he systematically bypasses those traditional institutional gatekeepers entirely by building his own independent platforms of influence, each one a lever of unparalleled power.
Like SpaceX.
Exactly. SpaceX, for instance, has grown into a government-level aerospace force, virtually indispensable to national and global space efforts, acting as a critical launch provider for both commercial and military payloads.
And Tesla's data.
Tesla, meanwhile, is not just a car company. It's a tech giant with more real-time road data collected from its vast fleet of vehicles than perhaps any government agency in the world, giving it unparalleled insights into urban infrastructure and human movement.
And then there's X.
And then there's X, formerly Twitter, which he acquired in 2022. This platform is now his direct, unfiltered channel to over 180 million people globally, giving him the unprecedented ability to influence markets, shift narratives, or mobilize public opinion with a single, unvarnished post.
That's immense power for one individual.
It is. This level of direct control and influence is exceptionally rare and often controversial, precisely because it is so potent. But it's fundamentally not accidental. He plays the long game by owning the very infrastructure of influence.
His various ventures are truly, as the sources suggest, chess pieces on a long-term strategy board, each meticulously placed to serve a broader, interconnected vision.
It definitely looks that way.
You look at Starlink, his global satellite internet network, which provides connectivity in remote regions and conflict zones. Tesla's full self-driving FSD technology, which isn't just about autonomous cars, but creates vast autonomous data ecosystems. Neuralink pushing the very boundaries of brain-machine interfaces to potentially enhance human cognition or cure neurological diseases. And now xAI, his generative AI labs. Each of these isn't an isolated business seeking its own standalone profit.
They all feed into something larger.
Each is strategically designed to shape how humanity communicates, how it moves, how it thinks, and ultimately how it survives and thrives into the future. It's a systemic vision, a grand engineering project for the future of civilization, not just a collection of successful companies.
His understanding of power goes far beyond mere scale or financial might. It's fundamentally about cultivating radical independence. Musk has repeatedly articulated a deep-seated, almost visceral fear of centralized control, whether it emanates from governments or from monolithic corporate entities.
He doesn't like relying on others.
Not at all. This profound fear of dependency is precisely why he insists on building vertically integrated companies, controlling as much of the supply chain and production process as humanly possible. It's why he insists on owning his own factories, designing his own complex chips in-house, launching his own rockets, rather than relying on external contractors like Boeing or NASA, which would introduce points of vulnerability.
So it's about control and reducing risk.
Exactly. To Musk, true power means systematically reducing dependency until, in his view, no one can realistically stop you. Not a critical supplier, not a reluctant regulator, and certainly not even a board of directors that might disagree with his radical visions or long-term timelines.
But perhaps his most disruptive and distinguishing move is how he completely reframes the timeline of success itself. While most corporate CEOs operate on quarterly cycles, intensely focused on the next earnings report, or perhaps a few years out.
Musk thinks in decades.
Yeah, famously plans in decades. Colonizing Mars, that's not a 5-year plan. It's a monumental 25 to 40-year vision.
Mind-boggling time frame.
Achieving a full brain-computer interface with Neuralink. He frames that as a 15-year timeline. And when it comes to the development of superintelligent AI, his view is not just long-term, but imbued with a sense of profound urgency. It has to happen before it's too late, he often states.
There was an urgency there, too.
What's truly fascinating here is that he doesn't chase fleeting market trends. He outruns them, he renders them irrelevant, by setting a profoundly different, almost geological timescale for success. He's playing an entirely different game with a clock that runs far, far slower than anyone else's.
And through all this, he embraces risk with a level of personal exposure that frankly terrifies and bewilders traditional executives. He has famously sold nearly all his personal assets, takes no significant salary from his companies.
And those compensation packages tied to performance.
Exactly. Tied entirely to achieving what were once considered impossible performance metrics for Tesla. Yet, by 2025, he has astonishingly unlocked every single tier, earning billions in stock options because he met these seemingly unachievable goals.
So he puts his money where his mouth is, literally.
Absolutely. The sources even note that in early 2025, he pushed for Tesla to invest directly in XAI, effectively leveraging one immense empire to fund another, because to him they are not separate entities, but integral parts of one mission for humanity's future.
Wow.
This unparalleled willingness to put absolutely everything on the line, repeatedly, is what differentiates him. Of course, this level of power and unconstrained drive can lead to isolation and controversy. Musk has certainly lost allies, broken partnerships, faced relentless criticism for what many perceive as erratic or even tyrannical decisions.
He accepts the cost, though.
It seems so. He accepts that cost. His view is simple and unyielding. To fundamentally shape the future, you have to be willing to utterly break from the present, from its norms, its expectations, and its comfort.
His view is simple. To shape the future, you have to be willing to break from the present. He gained this unparalleled power not by seeking permission or playing by established rules, but by building things no one else dared to build, by challenging fundamental assumptions, and by never asking for permission from anyone.
A truly unique path to influence.
Having explored his daily grind, his unique mindset, and his incredible ability to engineer influence, let's turn our attention now to the ultimate test of his philosophy. How he navigates existential crises when everything seems to be collapsing around him.
Right, when the pressure's really on.
Most entrepreneurs, most leaders, fight tooth and nail just to survive the next quarter, to meet the next deadline. Elon Musk, by contrast, builds with the vision to outlast the next century. His greatest strength isn't just his visionary thinking, it's his almost unparalleled ability to suffer through the present, to endure immense pain and pressure, to protect a decades-long vision.
The resilience factor.
Exactly, making him incredibly resilient in the face of what would break almost anyone else. How does he consistently do it when all the chips are down and everything seems to be falling apart?
This ability to endure unimaginable pressure is truly remarkable and really defines his trajectory. Consider 2008, a year that presented one of the most dire and defining crises in startup history, and indeed, recent global financial history.
A nightmare year for many.
Absolutely. The entire global financial system was collapsing, sending shockwaves through every industry. Amidst this turmoil, Tesla was literally weeks, mere days, from absolute bankruptcy, desperately scrambling for any last-minute funding.
And SpaceX wasn't doing well either.
No. On top of that, SpaceX, his other audacious venture, had suffered 3 consecutive devastating rocket launch failures, each costing millions of dollars in precious time, igniting widespread doubt about its very feasibility.
So both were on the ropes.
Critically, Musk had already emptied his entire PayPal fortune into these companies, and the situation was so dire, so desperate, that he famously admitted he was down to choosing which one to save, a choice no founder should ever have to make.
And crucially, as the sources highlight, he didn't choose. He famously refused to abandon either company, a decision that seemed utterly irrational to onlookers at the time.
How did he save both?
Instead, with the defiance that borders on the mythical, he saved both by putting in everything he had left, every last penny, every last ounce of personal capital, pushing himself to the absolute brink. It was an absolute all-in moment, a do-or-die gamble on the future.
And how it worked.
Miraculously, against all odds, the 4th SpaceX launch finally succeeded, delivering a much-needed morale and financial boost. And Tesla simultaneously managed to scrape together a last-minute funding round, literally in the 11th hour.
Wow. Talk about down to the wire.
Everything, seemingly, changed within 2 incredibly intense weeks, but only because he absolutely refused to quit, refused to concede, refused to let go of his vision. It wasn't just luck. It was sheer, unyielding, almost painful endurance, fueled by an unbreakable belief.
And that defining period wasn't an isolated incident, was it? It seems like a repeatable pattern of his crisis strategy.
Exactly. Fast forward to 2022, 2023, with his contentious acquisition of Twitter for $44 billion.
Oh yeah, that whole saga.
It was widely criticized by investors, media, even his own fan base as an ego move, a costly distraction from his other, more critical ventures. Immediately after the acquisition, he gutted the platform, firing thousands of employees.
Leading to chaos, advertisers fleeing.
Right, a mass exodus of talent, losing major advertisers, absorbing massive financial and reputational backlash. Tesla stock tumbles significantly, and the media largely labeled him as distracted and over his head.
The pressure must have been immense.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, most leaders would have been utterly overwhelmed, buckling under such immense public and financial pressure. But he wasn't thinking in quarters or even in years. He was positioning for decades.
Long game again.
By 2025, X has profoundly transformed into a powerful, data-rich ecosystem, becoming a critical asset. It's now feeding directly into XAI, which is now valued at an estimated $50 billion, and profoundly powering Tesla's own advanced AI stack for its autonomous vehicles and robotics.
So the distraction became a strategic asset.
It appears so. He consistently plays an asymmetric long game, using short-term chaos to gain long-term strategic advantage. In his world, pain isn't a signal to stop, to retreat, or to reevaluate plans in a conventional sense. It's perceived as a signal to accelerate, to push harder, to double down.
That's a very counterintuitive reaction to pain.
It is. This is Musk's unique crisis strategy in action. He moves aggressively when others are retreating, when fear is paralyzing the market. He strategically uses economic downturns, moments of low expectations, and widespread skepticism to rebuild stronger, leveraging discounted assets and maintaining a clear-headed, almost single-minded focus on his multi-decade goals.
He seems immune to external pressure.
He doesn't fear reputational damage or public backlash because he fundamentally doesn't optimize for popularity or public approval. He doesn't chase quarterly earnings reports or satisfy traditional investors in the same way because his compensation structure for Tesla, for instance,
Those impossible metrics.
exactly, was famously tied to performance metrics so steep, so audacious, that most Wall Street analysts initially called them impossible to achieve. Yet by 2025, he has astonishingly unlocked every single tier, earning billions in stock options because he consistently achieves the seemingly unachievable.
This raises an important, almost existential question for all of us, the listeners. What kind of deep-seated certainty truly drives our actions? Musk's almost inhuman resilience doesn't seem to stem from a blind optimism that everything will simply work out.
Where does it come from then?
Instead, it seemed to come from an unwavering, almost visceral certainty in the direction of his mission, a conviction in the fundamental necessity of his goals, not necessarily in the comfort or ease of the journey itself.
He accepts the hardship as part of the deal.
Exactly. He accepts chaos, turbulence, immense personal suffering, assuming it's simply the inherent price of creation, the unavoidable cost of building the future. Where others might patiently wait for ideal market conditions or for consensus to form, Musk simply makes conditions irrelevant by relentlessly pushing forward regardless, forging his own path through sheer will.
A strategy few could copy.
The result is a strategy that very few can imitate because it requires an extreme level of personal sacrifice and a radically different understanding of time and risk. He famously advises, don't time the market, outlast it. Don't build merely for this year's profits. Build for a world that doesn't exist yet, but desperately needs to.
And fear regret, not failure.
And perhaps most importantly, don't fear failure. Fear regret. The regret of not having tried hard enough, of not having pushed far enough.
He plays the slowest, hardest, longest game imaginable, not because he has to, but because, to him, that's genuinely the only one worth winning.
A remarkable commitment.
So as we bring this deep dive to a close, what does this all truly mean for us? Elon Musk's story isn't just about the staggering accumulation of wealth. It's a profound, deep dive into what it truly means to build in the most expansive, most audacious sense of the word.
Beyond the billions.
Way beyond. From risking his last $28,000 on an idea almost universally dismissed, to eventually holding an unimaginable $424.7 billion fortune. His life defies nearly every traditional path to success and fortune that is taught or celebrated. But as we've meticulously unpacked today, the real, enduring lesson has nothing, absolutely nothing, to do with the numbers themselves.
It really doesn't. It has everything to do with how far one human being is willing to go, how much he is willing to suffer, and how consistently he is willing to choose the harder path for what he profoundly believes.
Choosing the hard path consistently.
He consistently chose the road less traveled, the one paved with doubt, personal pain, relentless pressure, and widespread misunderstanding, not for glory, not for personal comfort, but for the clarity and imperative of his mission. His wealth isn't simply financial. It's a profound byproduct of decades of obsessive focus, immense personal suffering, and a life lived perpetually on the edge of burnout, sustained only by an almost mystical belief in his vision.
Remembering those key moments.
He didn't cash out after PayPal, he didn't let the 2008 global financial crisis break him, and he certainly didn't flinch when his ventures were widely ridiculed or faced monumental existential setbacks. He just kept building.
Most people want the outcome without the effort. He chose the relentless process. Most crave comfort and security. He chose clarity of purpose, no matter the discomfort. Most seek applause and external validation. He chose the work itself, the act of creation, as its own reward.
That's a powerful summary, and it raises an important question for you, the listener, as you reflect on this extraordinary journey. What idea, what profound conviction would you be willing to suffer for, even if absolutely no one else believed you?
That's the core question, isn't it?
What singular vision, what future would you fight for with every fiber of your being, even if it cost you your comfort, your approval, your safety net, or your conventional understanding of success?
Because in the end, history and the world doesn't truly remember those who consistently took the easy path, who played it safe. It remembers the ones who built something that simply couldn't be ignored, something that fundamentally reshaped our reality. Precisely because they refused to walk away when it hurt the most, when the odds were stacked against them, when everyone else said it was impossible. If this deep dive stirred something in you, an idea, a question, a spark, maybe a fire, don't let it fade.
Act on it somehow.
Take a moment to think about it, to discuss it with someone, or even better, to start building from that inspiration yourself. We truly hope you found immense value in this journey of decoding how extreme outcomes often require extreme, unconventional, and sometimes brutal behavior.
Hopefully some food for thought.
We're always here to help you get well-informed quickly and perhaps to think a little differently.